don't know if I should ask this question or not. What's the most absurdly overhyped sales skill that people are wasting enormous time on?
You know exactly where I'm going to go with this one.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. Honestly, sales methodologies. Hopefully, I can get a future job after this.
We're both going to be gone, man, after this. Hey folks, this is Michael Ocean, CEO at SellMeThisPen, an AI coach that helps sellers get upskilled without the need to waste a lot of time for the leaders doing manual role plays or coaching sessions. But less about me. Let's talk about today's topic. So today we are talking about how to upskill sales teams, and also we will share some thoughts on how to leverage AI to do it better. Now, I'm super stoked because we have Ben Stokes on the call. He's been building high-performing teams for companies like AdvancedMD and ProofPoint. And now he's the VP of Sales and Responsive, and also the CEO and founder of ForgePRO. So Ben, want to take it from the top and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into sales?
Yeah, sure. I like the Ben Stoked. I've never heard that before. No, all good. So yeah, I went to the University of Utah. I got my degree in finance there. I was that kid who had no idea what I wanted to do. And so I thought, okay, that looks good. And so we picked finance, graduated, and I started a company with one of the fellow students right out of school. And we started ATI, which was a transportation company in logistics. We built that to about 63 million rev and sold that. And then we sold that, and it was a fun time. And so I consulted with companies on how to do it after that. And then I built it again with a company named Marquise in Texas. We built that to, I can't remember, 11 or 12 mil, something like that. Sold that. And then I got into tech sales. So from there, I went to AdvancedMD, like you talked about, and then a slew of smaller, mid-sized companies, big, large companies like ProofPoint and everything in between. So been through, I don't know everything, screwed up a lot, been through a lot of wars, but hopefully along the way I learned a lot of things too. So it's been great. So
That's
yeah,
amazing, man.
that led me to sales. Was really AdvancedMD got me into tech sales.
Nice. I believe that transition from, again, running your own startup to getting to, all these companies from different size and getting to tech sales might be
Yeah,
an interesting journey. So,
yeah. My dad was a programmer, so quality control programming,
yeah.
and so tech in transportation always felt a little archaic. Nothing against transportation, but back in those days, I mean, we're talking 10, 15 years ago. But I just wanted to get into that whole tech wave, and I felt like it was passing me. So that's why I made that move. But
Yeah. I want to focus on, again, upskilling. So tell us when you first realized that upskilling your team could truly impact both the business and your own role. Tell us all the stories.
yeah, I've just a couple, I guess, over the years. So yeah, I mean, I've worked with hundreds of reps, if not thousands, over the years. It's been even at my own first org, we had 200 reps at one time, so it was pretty wild. But so going through that, you really realize the importance of upskilling, and especially at the beginning, I call them phases. So at the beginning is the biggest phase of improvement you'll see, because I'm green, I'm learning everything, right? I don't know anything. I'm learning, like, how do I talk to Michael? How do I talk to CEOs? How do I do this? How do I not be scared to do that? And, and then, how do I get my elevator pitch down and all the basic 101 stuff? And then from there, you don't get the big incremental improvements, but you get all these fine motor level improvements. It's kind of like Michael Jordan shooting free throws when he's already amazing, right? He's still improving, but it's littler than he did at the start. And so you realize that at the beginning is really the formative time where you learn the best habits you can. And you learn that through people who've been there and done that, been through the wars, screwed it up enough times to know not to do those things. And then listening, right? And being really curious, and then just being open to breaking your habits, which is really hard for reps, for everyone, really, because it's a little pride hit at times too, because we all want to step out the gate amazing, but I can tell you, I was not an amazing sales rep at the gate. I truly believe some folks, I call them golden tongues, where they're just born with the gift of gab and that. And then I was the other guy who had to really work hard and get comfortable with that, because I was not for a very, very long time. And so, yeah, everyone's on their own little journey. And I think it's just recognizing that and then understanding if we're going A to B or sorry, middle A to whatever O in the alphabet, skill level jump, how do we get them to there on their journey and what they need? And then start building out the rest, the fine motor skills along the way. But it's really about those formative jumps in those early years. But hopefully
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
answered that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious again, not only as an individual contributor, but as a leader. So you have a diverse team, obviously. Like people are different to your point. Some people are natural born, salespeople and they can talk
Yep.
the talk and get the
Yep.
job done. Some others need to learn. They need to go through changes. They need to fail. They need to, again, learn how to get better. So if you join a company today, how would you go about identifying, skill gaps before making any plans about rolling out any programs for your reps?
Yeah. So when I go into a company, it's really important. I know there's a bunch of books written about this, like what to do, what not to do in your first 90 days and whatever. I don't really follow any of that. I go in every org you find is so different. It's really hard to have a set rule, but what I try to do is first earn their trust quickly. Because if they don't trust me, I can't help them because they won't let me help them, right? And the fastest way to earn their trust quickly is get on the phones with them and make some calls. Go prospect with them. Go side by side call every morning. Go do this and go do those things. Right? Get on demos. Show that you have the skills to actually help them. Because if they can't see you do, if you're a theoretical leader where you've never been in
Yep.
the trenches, right? They'll pick that out so fast, and then you're gonna have a hard time training them and those things. But if you're someone they actually feel like can really help them and have been in the trenches and done all that, then yeah, they'll be open to it. But you got to show that. And so at first I do that, and just through those you learn a ton. Because if we sit side by side and do calls, you're going to be like, oh, Ben is so weak at this, or he could be great at this, or whatever, right? You're going to find out a lot just by doing that. So I spent really the first 30, 60 days, whatever, just really banging out phone calls and trying. And plus, you learn the business so much better. You learn, you listen to CS calls, you listen to gong calls. It's really just about soaking up everything you can so you understand what is a weakness. And without understanding the sales cycle and what the product is and how to sell to that audience, it's really hard to identify those things because you can make assumptions that are wrong. And so it's really just learn as much as you can early on, really soak up all that information, and then start identifying with your reps where they can get better. And sometimes it's blatantly obvious out the gate. I'm not saying it always has to take a long tail, but sometimes it does too. And then I put them in. This was some quadrant thing. I don't know where it came from. So whoever did it, kudos to you. But there's 4 quadrants of leadership. And it was originally created for leadership, but I actually use it for reps. So just imagine a box with 4 boxes, right, within. L1, which would be leadership one, starts here, then L2, then L3, then L4. So it goes counterclockwise. Yes, you can make it clockwise if you want, whatever. It doesn't matter. But within that, L1s are the folks side by sides. They need my help. They're those, we talked earlier about A to O, like in the alphabet skills, right? They're learning, they're making
Hmm.
those big leaps. They're the ones that need the more help. And so you got to be hands on with them. You got to be making calls for them, showing them how it's done, scripting, working on elevator pitches, doing all those things. Then when they graduate, they get to L2, they start standing on their own a little bit. You're still there. You're a heavy coach, still, on the sidelines, jumping in when they need it, etc., sitting on every demo with them and things, but they're starting to get it, right? And then to L3s, that's when you really become more of a mentor because they're really starting to get it. And after every call, you're coaching them, you're working on it. So you're constantly just grooming and working on them. And through this process, once you get to an L4, they're pretty darn skilled. And then it's the Michael Jordan phase where it's those little increments that you can help them with. Is it the way they pitch pricing? Is it, their comfort level with going too deep onto feature puking instead of speaking to the pains, or you know what I mean? Things like that. And so it's usually little things at that point, but they can stand on their own. They can demo on their own. They can do all those things on their own. And so that's how I do it. And so the reps don't know this. This happens behind the scenes, but I have a spreadsheet and everybody's in L1 through L4. And then that teaches me what I need to do in terms of how much I need to be involved or versus not. Because one thing as a leader too, you can drive your reps absolutely batty. If you have an L4 who's an experienced like enterprise rep, and I treat them like an L1 where I'm micromanaging everything they do and I'm on calls, guess who's going to quit really fast?
Yep.
That L4, he's going to say, screw you, I'm out, right? That's not going to take long. You can drive them. And we see that at leadership too. This goes for leaders, a CEO to a VP of Sales. You treat them like an L1, you're going to drive them nuts.
Hmm.
So it goes across the board. I think it's a really, really, really fundamental principle for all managers to learn. And then from there, start building out what skills do L1s need. But it's different for every rep. So it's really hard. Yes, you have a list of skills or whatever, but everybody comes with their natural bag of tricks, and they're either good at it or they need improvement in it. So
I love
there you
this.
go.
Look, so many things to discuss here, but I'm going to start with like being hands-on, and I can tell from my experience. Sometimes we have leaders who talk big, like, "Hey, just hit the phone, just go on calls, be human, just have a conversation, show me."
Yeah,
Just show me once.
yeah,
Show me how the greats are actually doing it. So then not only I trust you more, I actually learn by watching someone better doing the
yeah,
job. So kudos to you doing that. Now, my question is, what you described is amazing because people are in different level into the journey. Like to your point, an enterprise seller shouldn't get the same coaching or the suggestions that someone who just got started.
hmm,
But it's easier when you have smaller teams. So if you work, let's say, with a startup with 20, 30 reps, it's easier during that 30, 60 days, just sit down and really do the job with them. But when you inherit a bigger, let's say, team, a larger organization, how do you manage to really have an understanding about each individual and their needs specific
yeah.
to their roles?
Yeah, so two parts of it. I always hated the types of leaders. I call them armchair leaders, where they'll walk down a hallway and they won't say hi to anyone, right? And they're like better than
We all seen
everybody because
it.
they got some sort of title or whatever. I could never understand that, because what you're missing out on in that is, yeah, you're very good at working up, obviously, but working down you're not, and you're missing out on the down is where the spine of the company is. That's where like, how can you get a pulse of your company if you don't have a pulse on that? And so it was always important to me to care about my people. So I didn't care if I had 200 people. I knew their names. I knew who they were. We talk. I reach out to them. Not always business. We go for walks. We'll do whatever. I don't care, because I know it's important. Number one, if I build trust with folks, I'm going to get their best and they're going to get my best, right? So it helps build an org across the way. But going back to your question on how do you scale that, I'm one guy. I can't be in every meeting. So what I do is I set up mentorships. So we create reps who have been through this, L4s typically, who know
Mm.
how to take folks through, and I assign them L1s and we work together. But I'm also coming in with the L1s, sitting on calls as much as I can, getting to know them and things like that. I We've talked about this on a personal level. I work astronomical hours for a reason, because I care, and I really want these reps to succeed, because I truly believe we're helping teach them skills that'll feed their families for a lifetime. And I take that seriously. For me, that's what gets me going. Like, it's great we're selling software, growing companies, but really what we're doing is helping humans. Um,
Okay.
and if you're not going to get down and get to know your people and help them and do all those things, then I don't know. I don't really see the point in that. That's all about me kind of function, right? Where you're just that hallway leader or armchair leader or whatever you want to call them. But yeah,
Look, I can attest to that because we've known each other for a number of years now.
yeah,
And when SellMeThisPen was a baby and we had no idea what the hell we were doing, you took a risk on us. I said, look, let's do a pilot project. And what really stood up to me, because we were running a number of pilots, you were the only leader who took charge of building things for your team, including your enablement team. So I was just
hmm,
telling to my team, I was like, Ben literally built the program, although he has people, because he cares. He wanted to
yeah,
make sure if he's rolling something out, it's relevant, it makes sense, it's customized to his team. But I have a question actually about what you mentioned. You said
yeah,
I have these L4 reps or more tenured. They can help running this mentorship sessions or tag team it with you. So some people naturally like to help. They love to be part of something bigger than just, hey, I'm a salesperson. I got to go and hit my quota and get the clients to say yes. But how about those who are not actually aligned with this and they're really focused on being the salesperson and don't want to get involved with other things and get distracted? Whether it's good or bad doesn't matter. But based on
Yeah.
your experience, what's the portion of, let's say, L4s that actually like to get involved and help with running this sort of sessions to find these skill gaps?
Yeah, and sometimes they can be L3s too, but so of those, typically you do have those like outlier, just leave me alone cave dwellers that just want to do their thing. And
The lone wolves.
yeah, the lone wolves, so, which is fine. I think you got to just respect that. If they're winning, who gives a crap?
Yep.
And so for me, it's about understanding that there are certain reps I wouldn't go to for that because I know it's just not their thing. And I know if I did it, they wouldn't do a good job at it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are certain, let's just call it in sales, there are folks who are blatantly just there for the money and don't care about anybody, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they're not the ones you want to put in the mentorship. They're not going to lead them the right way in those things, and it's going to be really tough on that new hire. And the whole point is to, multiply me essentially, right, with the mentorship program. And so you really want to put in folks who are really natural at that. A lot of the reps I'll put in there that want to get into management, it's a really good way for them to learn those soft skills of this is what
Mm-hmm.
it's like. This is where if you want to be a manager, you start leaning over and start doing these. And then, you can work out the pay stuff. You can split deals. You can give first deals to the L4s or whatever, which I don't believe in, but you could split it or do whatever. Or you could just pay them double. I've done it in a myriad of different ways just to get it done. Usually what we end up doing is I usually pay just a flat monthly fee to the mentors.
Mm.
And then that
Nice.
way it's not attached to a deal. It's just a monthly fee. We put it into the
Yep.
budget. It's approved. And so they get 5 or 10 grand a month or whatever, just for being a great mentor. It
That's
doesn't
amazing.
reduce their quota or anything. They still got to hit their number. But that
Yep.
way we don't have that deal battle of all that kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Makes sense. So
but
you incentivize them basically, right?
yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
then I target the folks who want to be leaders, who want to get that experience. And then the folks who are just naturally always helping everyone because they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So you may as well put them over. And then I always look for who's a good fit with each other's personality too, because if they drive
Mm-hmm.
each other nuts, it's not going to help. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So not every rep gets the opportunity to do it, and that's why some are better than others. And and in terms of portion, I don't know. It's actually higher than you would think it is that are actually pretty good at this. But I would probably say 70% would be good candidates. But you do always have
Awesome.
those wild horses that are just leave me alone, let me do my thing. That's fine too. Whatever.
That's great.
And
So,
if you have good sales leaders, like if you're a firm where you're putting 8 reps to every sales leader, whatever fits your budgets, whatever, that really should be on the sales leader filling out that L1 and being
mhm.
that person until they're ready, until they get to that L3, and then whatever. So it really can fall on a sales leader as well. I'm a huge believer in sales leaders. Again, get in the trenches. The more you're in the trenches, you'll understand this biz. The more your forecast will be accurate, the happier you'll be because you'll actually understand the biz. You won't be so stressed, and you'll know when they're rolling up crappy deals. You'll know rep A always inflates his pipe, and rep B has good pipe. And the only way to learn that is get in the trenches. It's
Yeah,
not all just spreadsheet and numbers.
that is absolutely true. All right. Look, Ben, I would call you an early adopter of
Right.
new things, everything. Like, because I've seen you, like, new tech comes up, even if you don't implement it necessarily, you're curious. You're a curious
Yeah,
person. You want
for
to
sure.
see, what's out there. Do you think with everything is happening around us with all this AI buzz and, everything AI, how could it actually help VPs of sales doing their job easier or better? Or maybe even not, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. You've been around, you've seen things. So how do you
Yeah,
feel about it?
I think it's amazing. I think everyone has the fear like AI is going to take my job or whatever. In the end, in sales, especially in sales, it'd be really, really hard because no one wants to be sold by a bot. You've been called by bots. I've been called by bots. What do you do when they call? Click, right? Exactly. So I don't see that going anywhere unless the technology just gets nutty. Humans long for human connection, and you want to build a lasting relationship with someone who's going to help your company get better. And so I don't see that going anywhere. But what I think AI can really help with is automating crappy tasks within the process. Like, what's the age old battle between managers and reps? Notes in the opportunities. Age old battle, right? AI could easily solve that. Just feed the notes from Gong or whatever, take a transcript, feed it in. Don't give me a link, just put it all in one place so I can see it. And I don't have to bug the rep because I've got all the details literally from the conversation. So
Hmm.
I can see it being really helpful in ways like that, where, you're just taking out some of these age old battles. Because look, some reps are amazing at it, most reps are not, and it's not that they suck; they're focused on selling,
Hmm.
and most reps don't realize. I always had this rule, the 3 R's, and I'll see if I can remember it. I haven't talked about it in a long time, but so it's reputation, results, and then ride the wave. And so this is something I kind of invented I used to teach my reps this. You build a great career on reputation, right? Like you either suck or you don't. And you're doing great things to help others, and you're that person that'll do that. Your results follow. Typically, if you're doing those things, you have good results. So those will speak for themselves. The one where most people falter is the ride the wave, meaning companies are dynamic. They change. Your quota is going to go up every year, probably. If you're hiring like crazy, someone's got to pay for it, right? It's got to come from
Hmm.
somewhere. And so riding that wave of change with a smile and expecting it and things. But when you learn to master this, you really learn to have a good career and not to let things bother you so much. And you realize it's just built on these things. And then from there, as a rep, once you start learning the 3 R's and understand this, you start understanding the value of managing up. Like if Michael's my manager, why don't I do things done for Michael before he even asks? Guess what? When it comes time to fire or lay off people, who's going to be the last one you want to look at? The guy who did everything without asking, right? Even if my results, I had a bad quarter, because this is how you play protection ball as a rep. If your reputation's killer, that's a solid. If you're on the chopping block, say you have a
Yep.
bad couple of quarters is down here, but you're doing all the things, you're riding the wave, you're helping people, you're doing that's a really hard guy to fire, or
True.
gal, right? Whatever. But that's a really hard person to fire. And so I think it's when they start clicking on to understanding that and managing up, and then they start diving into, oh crap, if my notes aren't accurate, Michael can't forecast. Michael's forecasting is rolling up to C level. They're rolling it up to the board and promising, all these things. And then it comes back down to everything was broken at the start because my notes sucked. And so either the sales manager has to either go listen to the calls or bug the reps every single week to get it updated so they can forecast accurately, or make it up. You see some sales managers just fluff it and just to get out of the heat zone for a week, right? So that
Hmm.
crap happens as well. I was always we've talked about forecasting. I forecast like a weirdo, and it takes forever, but it's pretty accurate. But I think it's really important. You got to understand that business, man. But a lot of for reps survival, what they don't get is when they're not doing those things, they're killing the reputation side. And
Hmm.
the ride the wave side, they start getting angry because their boss is mad at them. They're not riding that wave well, right? And really, it comes down to just manage up. That's all you got to do,
Yep.
and be
That's very
cognizant of that.
interesting.
Yeah,
That's really interesting because, to your point, like not only focusing on like doing your job correctly or helping your manager, if you really have a different perspective, and I think it comes with a maturity to look at things a little bit differently. Because if you look at this as a task, hey, update your CRM, it will bug you
yeah,
forever. Like,
yeah. Oh
get
yeah,
out
yeah,
of my
yeah,
neck. I will do it. But the
yeah,
way you describe it is really interesting. Look, my manager needs to report to someone as well. If that forecasting is off, again, my boss's boss going to get mad at him, and it goes all the way up the chain. So then at the end of the day, I look horrible
yeah,
because that manager didn't get the support from me. It's not only just about my number. I'm a professional.
yeah.
This is not a one directional, one horizon
Exactly.
job that I just sit in front of my laptop and talk to people. So you
Yeah,
need to learn how to really adapt to the environment that you are performing in, and that's how
yeah,
you become part of a bigger ecosystem. I love that.
yeah. You got to
um
master those 3 R's, man. And if
yep.
reps do that, they're the reps that are happy and last.
That is
So
true.
yeah.
Let me ask you a question. I don't know if I should ask this question or not, but I'm gonna try.
Oh,
Look, in your experience, what's the most, let's call it, absurdly overhyped sales skill that
you,
people are wasting enormous time on?
you know exactly where I'm going to go with this one.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. Uh, Honestly, sales methodologies. And don't kill me for saying that. Everybody out there, sales is very much it's almost like a tribe. Like you hand down tribal knowledge, and everybody says you have to do the same things over and over and over, because that's just the way it is. I'm not a believer in that at all. And here's why I say this: sales methodologies work if you are experienced. If you're not experienced, the only thing it does is give you a common terminologies and helps you map out your sales process. That's it. But you could do that with a spreadsheet. That takes like 5 seconds. So these beyond that, what happens and the ramifications of it are, okay, let's say we do MedPick or whatever. Doesn't matter. They're all the same. Or, Sandler or whatever. They're great. Don't get me mad. They're great to like look at these soft skills and do that. They're important, but think of a rep's perspective and a buyer's perspective. If I'm a new rep, say I'm in that A to O, like we're using that as the example, right? That's my skill set. You put a sales methodology on me, you have to do at this stage, you have to do this stage. Guess what my sales pitch is going to be like? It's just going to be a big list of
Checklist of questions. Let's
because
go through them.
I don't ask these. I get whipped by my leader, right? And I get fired. And so you're hanging someone's job on the balance to answer these questions when really what you should be focused on is the buyer experience. Is that a good experience for your buyer? Freak no. That's horrible. Your buyer wants to shoot you. Just show them the product at that point, right? They don't want to hear all this. It's horrible. And so it's one of those things that's just been handed down of we have to do this. And I've always fought that of, do you? Why? Guess what happens if you just have good reps that follow good process? You hit pretty much every sales methodology thing anyway. It's really just about managing that and hiring good people. If you have crappy people is usually where they put that in, and not crappy humans, but like people who just don't want to do the job. Like, we talked before this of the follow-ups where it takes them 2 months to follow up with a deal. And, that's not a great rep, right? It's probably not a great fit for this role. But so it's really, really hard for early, middle, and even some experience to really pull it off well conversationally. Because the only way it works without feeling like a list is just like this. We have a great conversation, and throughout it, somehow I'm doing the Socratic approach, and I'm walking the horse to water, right? And I'm asking these questions to get you to the water trough. And so, which is great. That's fine. And if you have those skills, awesome. I've met very few reps that have those skills that can really handle a sales methodology the way people kind of put it in place to make it successful. And if you look at a buyer's perspective, it's just pure Hades. I'm more focused. Why don't we focus sales processes on buyers? How do we make it the best experience for them? Because guess what? If it's a great experience for them and a crappy one at your vendor, at the other vendor, who are they going to go with? If everything's pretty comparable, they're going to go with you. And so for me, it's about why don't we map out our sales, whatever you want to call it, process, if you want to call it methodology, whatever, I don't care. But do it around the buyer's experience for that sale. And every sale is individual and different. Like if I'm selling to security, a whole different sale than I'm selling to medical. And my process should follow that, right? And so it's just understanding those things, because otherwise it just becomes a checklist. And yes, they're going to hit that checklist every time because you're yelling at them about it. And you're going to fire them if they don't. They're trying to feed their families, right? But on the other end, you have this poor buyer who's like, this sucks, like just
Stranger on the call. What's happening here?
Yeah, well, and buyers are so informed now. It's not like it's hard to find information. I could go on your website, figure out and get a gist of what you do. You might have a demo on YouTube. I could ask friends. You know what I mean? It isn't hard to find the information you need. So a lot of that baseline education is already done. It's more just coming in and like, what, Michael, do you want to see today that's really going to move the needle for you? So there's something I call wow moments. And I really think sales methodologies should be built on wow moments and sales processes, not just because the methodology was invented by some dude who had just prescribed every step of the process, right? And that's great for managers because I can see where it is, but for a buyer, it's horrible. But the wow moment is this. So let's say you care about button A, you work in a factory and button A is broken. If I pitch you and we don't talk about button A and I don't demo you button A, but the next vendor does, who are you going to go with? All you cared about was button A. You don't care about all the other crap. So your wow
All the
moment
bells and whistles.
yeah. So my discovery for you should be tailored at what is your wow moment? What can I show you immediately that's going to win that first buying decision in your brain? Because if you think about, if I showed you a demo today of any product, how long does it take you to really make that first buying decision in your brain of this is great or it sucks? Like, honestly, how long does that take you, Michael? I know for me, it's
right
fast.
away. Like, to be honest, it's right away. Like, it's
30
just a
seconds.
connection. Yeah, there we go.
That's your first buying decision. You don't win that, guess what happens the rest of the time? You're thinking in your mind why this won't work for you. If I win the first buying decision, you're thinking in your mind why this will work for you. What we should focus sales methodologies on is how do you win that first wow moment? Because from there, it's easy to win the rest of the wow moments, right? And so that to me is where methodologies all fall apart. They're great. They're prescriptive. Yes, they're whatever. It's really just controlling all the leverage you can in a sales motion is really all they do. And that's great, but you can do that on the back end. Your buyer doesn't need to be a victim of that. The buyer should be focused on the wow moment, and you win those early wow moments, man. And your pitch, and so it's every demo could be different. Like if the next guy's button Z, I'm going to show him button Z. I don't care about button A anymore because he doesn't care about button A. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because really, what are they going to remember? If say you look at 6 vendors, what are you really going to remember? Do you like me? Are we priced crazy? Are we right? Right? Can we solve your actual need, button A or Z or whatever it was? Right? And are you a really decent company that's been around and not going to go somewhere? Can I grow with you? Beyond that, you're not
Mm-hmm.
going to remember
Mm-hmm.
anything else. I could show you
True.
every feature. You'll be like, yeah, I thought it was cool, but I can't quite remember because all 6 blur in my brain. You got to win those moments because at the end, that's all you're going to win is those 4 things, and either you win those or you don't. And methodologies are more about, okay, we did that. Now we got to ask about the decision makers, and we got to do all this stuff. Da, 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 da. Yes, you do have to do that. Don't get me wrong, but that comes with time through the sale. I haven't even earned the right to get that yet, right? Like we're just having an initial conversation. As we go through, then I'll say, Michael, this looks like you're interested. You want to move forward. Who else is in the buying process? Who should we show a demo of? Who do we need to get involved in this? And then you start fleshing out all that stuff. And that's why I said at the start, if you just do the right things along the way, you're going to hit 99% of every sales methodology anyway, without making it
Mm-hmm.
torturous for everybody. There are better
That
ways
makes
to
a
do
lot of sense.
it.
It makes a
So
lot of sense because honestly, like it's so funny. I shared this on LinkedIn recently that one of our biggest actually clients and happiest clients, we had 3 back-to-back conversations in 3 days. So
yeah,
they typically like this methodology is like first you got your discovery call, you get on a call, you ask all these questions. Nothing necessarily was discussed. And if you look at most methodologies out there, it means like I'm bound to fail because
yeah,
I don't know the uh, decision making process. I don't know. But first conversation, the guy was freaking out. He has a problem. They double his quota. It was another conversation of why, but
yeah,
he has a problem. He opened up because he came through a referral. It was always like this, instant, let's say, trust when you start listening to people. So I didn't
mhm,
walk him through the process. Yes, I have a process for myself, some questions that I would like to
yeah,
get an answer to. I didn't get those answers right away. But
yeah,
because the trust was earned, he asked at the end of the first call, can we meet again tomorrow? Because I want to continue this conversation. And that was the aha moment for me because I was like, all right, I didn't ask any of the things that I'm trying to discover right now. And typically, I'm victim of this too,
yeah.
because sometimes you learn
You all
things,
are, right?
in your
Yep.
journey. And and I got shocked because we had a lot of other people fighting for the same deal, better funding. We don't even have funding, a bootstrap company, just a
Yeah.
tiny team, great technology. They actually ran a pilot for 8 weeks with another competitor, and things
Okay.
changed because we
Yeah.
just clicked.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was just like questioning, do we really need sales methodologies? Like I was chatting with a friend of mine, and he said, look, we spent $2 million to roll out a methodology that most likely nobody's going to adopt to. So
Yeah.
why companies are doing this? Why do we give so much attention and budgets that we don't even have to roll out these methodologies? Like what's the main reason? Is there some politics behind it, or it's just a wrong mindset or belief system that some of the leaders, have?
I think it's a mix of all the above. It's what we all are victims of what we know, right? And what we don't know. So if I've learned that way, I come from a big org like an IBM or something, and that's just the way it was. Guess what? I'm going to try to implement in my next org,
Hmm.
what I know, right? So part of it's that, and they just kind of rolled out. Part of it is these sales experts, of the world who come out and everyone forgets these guys are making a living by prescribing every piece of the sales process. It doesn't mean you have to do every single little thing they say. You know what I mean? They're spending their all days thinking about every single little thing, and it doesn't mean you have to do that to your reps and things like that. But so some of it's political, some of it's that, some of it's just tribal. Like you think it's going to help. I think the biggest thing is they try to create a common language amongst sales. Like hey, we're calling it a discovery, or we're calling it a disco, or whatever, right? Or a needs analysis, or whatever you want to call it. So some of it's that, just getting a common language and building really around those sales processes, exit criteria, which I think is important. But again, you can do that on the backside. A client doesn't ever need to know that. And you can check those boxes through great conversations. Like your example is exactly perfect. You did exactly what you should, because you should be focused on the buyer, not on your stupid internal processes of checking boxes. The buyer's buy. Make the buyer comfortable, make it an amazing experience for them. And guess what? You're going to end at the same point, probably even better. Your close rates will be higher, because
Hmm.
you're not selling out of fear. What we do to these poor reps is just torment the freak out of them with their brains of, get through this, get through this. Oh, you didn't follow this guy. You didn't do this. All this bureaucracy stuff, which is just nutso. And in the end, the victim of it is the rep, but also the buyer. They had a poor experience. You have a poor experience,
Hmm.
like you said, you won that deal because they had a great experience.
That's true.
Everyone just got to go back to basics, man. Sales is just making a great connection and filling a need. That's as simple as that. It doesn't need books, doesn't need any of that stuff. It's just simple. Yeah, there's skills involved and having great conversations, but really, in the end, that's all it is. You're making money with
So
words.
that is true. But would you say we don't need a standardization in our sales orgs at all? Like, because again, each conversation might go in a different, direction. And I'm just trying to, think, do we really need to have a standard, let's say,
If
procedure to follow, or it's just a lazy way to get rid of like true coaching, true one-on-one personalized coaching for reps, so they learn these basics that you were mentioning, the foundation, rather than fancy processes. So what's
Yeah,
your take on that?
yeah. So this will be radical. I'm obviously, hopefully, I can get a future job after this.
We're both going to be gone, man, after this.
I'll come work with you. But so no, I tend to lean on. So I've done it both ways. I've worked in orgs where they're very much a strict process oriented. Follow this, and I see the things I've talked about over and over and over and over, and then they always struggle with close rates. I've seen orgs without it have amazing reps crush it, but I've also seen them struggle. What it comes down to is the person. You either have the right person or you don't. If you have the right person in the seat, they naturally will do these things because you've taught them from that A to O period where you get that major learning. You've taught them good habits of what to do, how to follow up, how to, have good conversations, do all these things. And then I think it really, us as leaders, is get process out of their way as much as possible. Again, it's all about the buyer journey. Let's make that buyer experience amazing. And really, so think about this: if you made your buyer journey amazing and you had 3 sales reps, and they could be dynamic and just go to whatever was needed for each buyer, but they weren't following some crazy process, and you were winning, who cares, right? And
That
if
is
you're not
true.
winning,
At the end, it's just about the actual result and the experience you're giving to your buyer
yeah,
that turns to obviously more
yeah.
revenue and wins.
And so, yeah, does it bring some good things too? Yeah, I'm not going to dog hard across that. Yeah, it brings standardization, like we talked, and all those things. And it helps. New reps do need some sort of backbone of standardization. So you got to find some middle ground, and maybe that's the answer. But I just see the extreme of putting a newbie in a seat to a sales methodology is just suicide for everybody.
Hmm.
That's just dumb. It just doesn't work. And so, for an experienced rep where they can make it conversational and still check those boxes, sure, that's not a big deal. So more of that, like I
Interesting.
said, that early SMB, lower mid market. And yes, some of it's political. Most processes and things are put in place so managers can answer questions to C-level. And most processes managers put in place are given to them from C-level so they can answer questions from the board. So it always rolls in those ways, right? And so a lot of times that's how bureaucracy develops and happens. I think our job as leaders is to take that away on that sales end as much as possible and
Mm.
just train the crap out of your guys, man. If they suck at moving the needle, like we talked about follow up, if
Mm.
they're horrible at follow up, guess what you should focus on? Follow up. Like, work on them. Why are they struggling with it? What's going on? Is it time management? Are they booked completely stacked and they can't get to it? Do they need help? Are they just lazy? Or, it could be anything. So it really just comes down to make a great experience, work on those skills constantly with your reps, even if they're really skilled. Again, it's those micro skills at that point, but there's always something to work on. I screwed up a demo yesterday. I listened back and I was like, oh man, it happens. Right? So we all have skills to
It
work
happens,
on.
yeah, to all of us,
Yeah.
Ben, last question.
Yep.
I know you already mentioned, follow up a few times. I think I know the answer by now. But I'm curious if your sales team could only focus on one skill to improve for the next year, meaning that they might actually not perform their best on the other areas, what would that be and why?
Yeah, I mean, follow-up's a huge part of that. So I'll give an example. In Pittsburgh, we sold for a medical company. I won't put names just so I don't get anybody mad, but they're great company, by the way. But so had really great reps and had new reps. And super wicked smart, great reps, new reps, super smart too, but just didn't have that knowledge there. Just pure hustle outperformed the top. I
Hmm.
think follow up is really really important, but it comes from that hustle mentality of let's get in and make sure I'm checking, going through all my leads. Am I moving these to the next stages or not? And if not, why not? Is it follow up? Did I not get, like I gave you an example before we started this, at a rep who 2 months ago we did a demo, still hasn't sent a quote out, and you're like,
What's going on here?
and so that's just not going to work, obviously, right? Things like that. But it really comes down to, do they truly have a passion to their job, or is it just a job? If you truly love your job, you're going to give your best, and you're going to go through and make sure every one of those clients have an amazing experience. And that to me is the biggest upsell you can give, is how do we give the buyers an amazing experience all the way through? And that includes follow up, focused really heavily on how do we give them materials at the end to, like after we have a demo, if it's a security demo and I can't get a CISO on the line, which is pretty common, how do I educate that CISO about why the heck I matter? Our product
Hmm.
matters, right? Why should they buy it? So we send out our mutual action plan, which, by the way, this is a pet peeve of mine too. You'll notice I have a few, but the mutual action plans are great. I'm not dogging them. I think it's important. Like, map out what's going to happen and all those things, put dates to them. But it's great to send that over, but put that on the lap of a CISO that doesn't do anything. They don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you. Make sure you're
Hmm.
including materials, mini demos, things, making it a great buyer experience for all people, either on the demos or not, and thinking more broadly, and really communicating with those, doing top down selling. Have your VP of sales call those C levels while you're selling from the champion up. Just do all those things. So for me, it comes down to really that. And I don't know how you quantify that in a word, but it really comes down to care at every single stage about the buyer journey. And are you making it your buyer, your champion, are you giving them everything they need to actually build a case to get this done? Because if you're not, it's probably not going to get done. Because some champions are amazing and have bought software before and know exactly how to get it done, but there's many who never have, and they don't know what to
Hmm.
do. Like, there's some folks who, they're like, "How would I calculate ROI on this? I don't know." You
Yeah.
know, why as a rep are
That's
you
why we
not?
need salespeople, I
Yeah,
guess.
why aren't you doing that for 'em? Exactly. So that's what I mean, is really map out that post demo. It's pretty easy to get through a demo and do those things, right? And get people excited. How do you keep that excitement level going all the way through, is what I would focus on. And how do you make that journey amazing? How do you get all decision makers to a yes? And you can get that. That's where deals are won. And they're also, I think, won even more early too. Obviously, you don't win that champion, you're not getting to that level. So it's win those early wow moments, but decision makers have wow moments too. How do we identify all those wow moments through the whole chain and get them excited about this? Because at a
Hmm.
manager level, you care about button A. I might care that button A caused down the line X problem, right? I don't really care about button A. I care about this because I got to solve this today, and then I got to figure out why it happened. So my care is
Hmm.
here, and then the C level is caring, why did production stop? Why are we not making money today? Right? And then the board's like, what are you guys doing? This is craziness. So everyone cares about things a little bit differently. So it's tailoring that post demo communications, who does what, to each decision maker and what they give a crap about, and giving them the information they need in a digestible format and getting them excited about it. And you win that, you win deals. That's all it comes down to.
I
But
love it. I'm gonna give this a try. Finding the wow moments. And keep
yeah,
you posted about my current deals. That's interesting. It's look because it's simple. It's simple. It's something that could be always top of mind. Like how to your point, make the bar journey easier. So it's
Yeah.
easier for
Like
them to basically follow and digest.
the age old thing of separate disco for a demo and then do a separate demo. One of my pet peeves as well. Like, why? If I'm buying software, if you bought software today, do you really want to sit through 2 meetings with me? Honestly, no.
I would do with you,
Well,
but,
sure,
but
but you don't want to do that. Again, we're not focused on the buyer journey. That's a completely selfish motion for me
yeah.
to prepare for the demo, right? To get as much information. But what happens is reps really hardly ever prepare. If they do, it's like 5 minutes before. So the whole point of it is mute. It doesn't really matter at that point. But think about the journey of I just had a half-hour conversation with you. All I want to freaking see is the product. And now you're going to make me wait a week or whatever and to get some SE on the line. And then I got to go through this again. And then, you know what I mean? It's such a laborious process for your buyers. It's horrible. Like, so I'm a big fan of just disco demo all in one. Have the first 15 minutes, ask those questions that you need to get to know them. And again, it's exactly what you did. Build trust and just get to know them. What are you struggling with? And guess what? They're going to tell you all your questions anyway. If you just break down those barriers and get them opened up. I had a great one yesterday with a CISO, completely going through audits, stressed out of his mind. And so we talked about that. We dove into what's stressing you, what gaps are you missing, da 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 da. It didn't follow any prescribed thing, but guess what? I checked every single one of those boxes just by having a great conversation. But that's really hard for new reps to do as well. So that comes with time and confidence and experience. You have to have the
Yes.
experience to know what to ask, and so that just comes from later. But I think it's, again, just back to that buyer journey, man. Oh, hopefully that's helpful, Michael.
That was extremely helpful. I appreciate you sharing. A lot of people will most probably going to hate us for some of these questions.
Yeah, it's like I
Do
said,
your discovery and demo at the same time if the buyer wants it. I'm like, no, they should be separated. Methodologies matter. Look, it's
there's
been
a camp, and everyone's justified in their own ways, right? Like every product sells differently, and maybe some people are fantastic at it. I just haven't seen reps early in their career being able to pull that off. It's very hard. Disco demo, all you got to do with the disco, first 15 minutes, if I don't feel like you're a fit, we just still move to demo. It's the same exact thing. You're just doing it in the same, I'm just not having a break in between. And you should have your crap together before that call anyway. All I got to look up in ChatGPT is what verticals do you sell into? What sales process do you typically do? So I have some understanding of your business, and I can speak to that throughout. It takes 2 minutes. It's super easy. And then from there, just have a great demo. Start with their wow moment. Again, that whole point is find out what is broken and let's show them that, because that's the only thing they're going to remember anyway. And then you can show them beyond that, whatever you want to do. But so, yeah.
I think my takeaway from this is really focus on the buyer journey. And when it comes to upskilling your reps, maybe the best strategy is to focus on the basics. Just, teach them how to really talk about what really matters to the buyer and tailor that meeting that you got, the shot that you got with someone on a call to make it a great experience for them. So then you
Yeah.
can continue the journey with. All right, Ben, thank you very much. It's
Yeah,
been
man.
lovely chatting with you as always. Again,
Yeah.
love to do more of this with you, because while you were sharing your thoughts, I could, take it in many different directions, but for the sake of time, I think we got to wrap it up. So if someone
Sounds
wants to
good.
reach out to you, Ben,
Yeah.
how should they
So
do that?
just hit me up on LinkedIn, Ben Stokes, send me a message. So one thing about me, I'm a weirdo. I reply to every message, just out of love for people. So, cause I know everybody works really hard and you deserve an answer. So I'll reply to you. Just ping me. No big deal.
There you go. Guys, I
Yeah.
hope you enjoy this podcast today. And if you want to reach out to me, you know where to find me, Michael Ocean on LinkedIn, or you can email me as well, michael@sellmethispen.ai. Alrighty.